Okay, now that we have installed VirtualBox, what we need to do is actually download a Linux distribution. It doesn't really matter which Linux distribution you use, but the one we're going to use in this class is Linux Mint. I'll go to Linux Mint download. There we go. Click download. And then here we go. I'm going to pick Cinnamon 64. And if everybody picks Cinnamon 64, then they'll all look the same. Now we have to pick out where we want to download. So I don't live in Asia or Europe. I live in North America. Kernel.org is usually fairly fast, so I will click there and start the download. Okay, let's skip to the end. All right, so I downloaded Linux Mint. It should look similar to this. Linux Mint, it's an ISO image. So this is a virtual clone drive. It says for my little Windows type. It's an image that we'll use. So I'm going to go and actually create a spot. Now, when I go into VirtualBox, I'm going to create a virtual machine environment for Linux Mint. This will not actually install it. So I'm going to just call it Mint, Linux Mint. All right, and then it knows that it's Linux. Ubuntu 64 is good, so click Next. I recommend as much memory as you can give it. How much memory you give it depends on how much memory your machine has, but I'll give it 4096 for my machine. If your machine only has like 3 gigabytes, that's not going to work very well. You can always change this in the future anyway. Alright, you would click the Linux Mint and click on Settings in the future. So that's fine. Go ahead and click Create. It's fine. Next. That's fine. Next. Now this we want to change. Linux Mint will not install unless you have greater than 10 gigabytes. So 10.01 is what I'm going to do as a minimum. That's fine. Create. And then, ta-da! We now have the settings for the virtual machine for Linux. We do not have the actual operating system installed yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start. Might take a little while. This is a very slow machine. Now I've got to tell it where I downloaded this. Basically the ISO or the DVD that I might use if this was a real machine. So ISOs are often used to burn DVDs or CDs. So I click Open. And now I've got that. Click Start. And now it's going to take a little while to start the virtual machine with Linux as the booting from the DVD drive. So automatic boot in 4, 3, 2, 1. Looks like we're gonna launch a rocket. Let's take a little while. We'll speed through it. Okay, we now are at Linux. It's actually come up. So what can we do at this point? First I'll click on this to make it go away. All right. At this point, it's very important that you realize we have not actually installed Linux. We have a little CD here, and it says Install Linux Mint. If you do not install it, then you will not really, you won't be able to save anything on your Linux distribution. So let's go through what we've come up with. At this point, we downloaded Linux Mint. We set up the virtual machine. We started the virtual machine with Linux Mint ISO, which shows up as this kind of DVD CD thing. We must double click the icon. So we double click it, it starts, it's got its little thing going on. All right, so we want English or Italian, Spanish, whatever you want, but I'm gonna go with English here. So continue. I'm gonna click continue. Notice I'm installing this. Click install now. Everything's happy. Continue. This is the time zone. Denver's close enough. Continue. All right, this is my keyboard. Continue. I'm going to give myself a username. and it could be any username you want. You must give a password. It needs to be the same on both ends. Now I'm going to log in automatically just because I don't have to, so I don't have to do a password. I have to use a password to get into Windows. Why do I need to get into Linux as well? So it's whatever you would like. All right, this is going to take a long time. It'll probably take me about 20 minutes to install Linux on this slow machine. So I will just speed through the process and show you what it looks like at the very end. All right, so at this point, it worked. So we can restart it, installation complete, restart, and I'll show you on my really slow machine what it looks like. All right, and we are ready to go. I'll click that, get rid of it. Welcome screen, and now we have an actual fully functional version of Linux going on. Notice the little screen, the little disk for install is gone, and if we ever want to get rid of it or to shut it down, we just click quit and shut down. So this is what Linux looks like when it's all done. You can change the settings if you want to. It's highlighted, click settings. Machine is really slow. And so biggest thing that you usually want to change is memory, if that's a problem for you. So if Linux is really crawling, then we usually want to give it more memory. And that is our introduction to how to install Linux Mint on VirtualBox.